Thomas, hey, congratulations on your new documentary, Werner Herzog, The Radical Dream.
Thank you very much.
So tell us, how did this film came about for you? What actually sparked you that you wanted to do this documentary?
Well, I was always fascinated by Werner from a very early age on. When I was that's a nice cat. um, when I was a teenager, I watched AGUIRRE, The Wrath of God, and I was shocked. I was really almost traumatized because I'd never seen anything like that before. And of course, Kinski in the Jungle was something you never forget. And the way it was filmed like a documentary, and uh, it was shocking in a good way because it kept me interested in Werner's film that he did before and after that. And after that, after watching Aguirre, I read on Walking in Ice, his first book, his journal, when he walked from Munich to Paris. And back then, I also was a writer. I also started to write, and I was looking for inspiration, and that was like the most inspiring book or the most inspiring read I could imagine. And from that, pretty much from that moment on, I always wanted to meet Werner, which is very difficult because also then we're talking about the 90s here. He lived in the States and not in Germany, and he had this reputation of being impossible to be approached, or that he would never give any insights into his life or his emotions, as it were. Yeah. And of course, if something is impossible, you just want to go for it even more. And that was like the biggest motivation behind that. And looking back, how it all came together, it was surprisingly easy, considering the reputation he has. And I mean, I experienced it myself that sometimes for no particular reason, he's opposed to an idea that sounds rather plausible or good to anybody else, but he's just opposed to it. I think he always follows his instinct, and I was lucky that he liked my ideas and my way of approaching him.
So his how can you say his personality, where he appears to be, very enigmatic and unapproachable, wasn't true at all. So it's easy to convince him to be part of your project.
Well, I still don't know if I was just lucky or if his reputation is just not true. I mean, I met so many people who said that he was the nicest person, uh, and very caring and interested in their works. And but I also met people who didn't say that, as it were. Um, for me, it all went really smoothly. It was like yeah, like a dream, to be honest.
just just like the theme in your film. So how did you want to tell his story after you finally got a reach?
Yeah. I wanted to focus on two aspects. First, I mean, he has this amazing career, and it's an incredible story. There's uh, this man coming from a valley in Bavaria with literally nothing, and he's ending up in Hollywood as a star, and being a star not only in Hollywood but in the world. And to tell this story, that was the first goal. And for that, you really had to cover all the landmarks of his career. Yeah, so that showed me the structure of the film, focusing on his all like 4 or 5 masterpieces. Of course, there are 60 films, and it was difficult to reduce or to focus on only a couple of them. But that gave me the structure, and also spot a light on all the other aspects of his career. I mean, he's not only a filmmaker, he's also a writer, an actor, a philosopher. And the second thing that was important to me was to, and you never can say if this is going to happen during a documentary, that's the exciting thing about it, to show a side of Werner that people didn't know. I mean, everyone agrees that he has this mystery about him. And then I think the moments that are really touching in the film are when he comes back to the places of his childhood, and then all of a sudden this man who was in the jungle with Kinski and survived certain situations where he was really close to death, all of a sudden this man becomes very fragile in a way, and you feel his emotions, although he, of course, he claims these are not tears of emotion, but something came into my eye. Yeah? So that was the other aspect I was trying to get, and I was really lucky that it happened.
Was traveling, you traveled with him back to his hometown. Was that a coincidence or was that planned?
No, that was planned from the very beginning, because we met, I think, twice before the filming, and it was very clear that how much these places meant to him. And he was telling me that he went to the village where he grew up, like every year when he comes to Europe. And then it was clear there must be something about this place that attracts him and that still resonates within him. And yeah, it was clear it was also clear that was like the first day of shooting, that we would go there. And yeah.
Now, also a personal touch of you had him read his personal journals for that. So you saw these personal journals. I mean, the writing is so small. I don't even know how he actually wrote and read that.
Yeah, it's scary and amusing in a way, and also amusing how how he puts on the glasses. I mean, you can't really invent or stage this. I mean, it's really necessary that he does that, because otherwise he couldn't read it. So again, I was lucky that once again I thought, when I asked him, okay, do you want to read us from your journals? And these journals have this mystery about them, right? Nobody ever saw them, um and he was like, okay, I will go to the safe and get them for you, and then we can do a reading. Also very, very surprising, and there were no hurdles or objections from his side. So yeah.
I am so surprised you got him to open up so personally about himself, and I'm also surprised that you went through the background of so many films that he actually had. Could you tell about the process of going through his filmography and the choices of which one you wanted to really highlighted.
Yeah, where it was clear that like I think 5 or 6 films were really clear from the very beginning that they would be highlighted in the documentary. Signs of Life, which was his debut, and which shows that the stuff he was doing at that time was so radical and different from the stuff everyone else was doing, especially in Germany. And then, of course, the 2 of the films he did together with Kinski, Aguirre, The Wrath of God, and FITZCARRALDO. I think FITZCARRALDO, of course, it's such an amazing story, incredible story that had to be in the film. And I also had access to the first version of FITZCARRALDO with Mick Jagger and Jason Robards in it. And so it was clear that there had to be a special focus on FITZCARRALDO because I had footage that had never been seen before. Aguirre laid kind of the basis for his career, I think, worldwide. So it was a sensation when it came out. So these 3, and then it was also important to focus or show that show his American career, as it were, because his American career is not very well known in Europe, especially in Germany. And these are so amazing films, especially his documentaries like GRIZZLY MAN or Encounters at the End of the World. So you have 5 films now, GRIZZLY MAN and Encounters of the World, and the 3 he did in Germany. And then one of his, I think when I asked him, when we first talked, he said one of his favorite films by himself was Bad Lieutenant, because he enjoyed working together with Nicolas Cage so much. So it was clear that that also had to be in it. But that was really hard because there are so many other great films by him. For example, one that I really like is Stroszek, and we didn't have space and time for that. So that's a pity.
How did you get a lot of the footage, or particularly behind the scenes footage? Was it did he kept the archives and he opened that up to you, or you had to?
No, his whole archive is in Berlin. He gave that to Berlin. And it also included the first version of FITZCARRALDO, or I mean, it's not a whole film, it's just parts of the film. And it took a lot of convincing and a lot of talks to get this footage. So that was, but it was also very satisfying as a filmmaker to finally get the file with the footage. And the other footage, which was really interesting because it's not really known and you can't really get it online or in an archive, was some Thomas Mauch, the DOP of Aguirre. He shot some extra footage during Aguirre, which is really extraordinary. It's not much. It's like 1 minute or so, but still, it's nobody knows that this footage existed. So I contacted Thomas Mauch and talked to him, and he I also had a good connection with him, so he gave it to me.
That's wonderful. Through your discoveries, did you find what influence that makes Werner tick? I mean, I guess one of the things he admired a woman named Lotte for some time. Yeah.
I think it's the basic aspect which keeps him motivated and keeps him running, as it were, is his curiosity. I mean, he's 80 now, and he's still so curious about so many aspects of the world, and his interests are so diverse. He's interested in pretty much everything, and as long as he has this curiosity, he will do films and write books. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now you brought very good all other subjects into your film to be interviewed. Could you talk about who you wanted to bring in to your film? It seems like a lot of people worked on this project, and they they adore him so much. It's probably easy to convince them, right?
Right. It was surprisingly easy to get these people, but of course, from the German side, Thomas Mauch had to be in it because his contribution was so important for the films. I mean, Werner is the director, of course, and Kinski the star of these films, but uh, everyone who does films knows how important a good DOP is. So Thomas Mauch had to be in it, and luckily he's still alive. And also Wim Wenders had to be in it because Wim and Werner are close friends, but in a very special way. I mean, it was very touching to see how, or to hear Wim talking about Werner, because uh, usually there's a rivalry between colleagues, between these giants, yeah, you would guess, but it's not a rivalry at all. It's really deep respect and friendship, and they inspire each other, and that was really touching for me to see. So these two from the German side, and then of course from the American side, I was luckily to have Christian Bale and also Werner's third wife, Lena Herzog, who is really, really very important to him, I think, and had been during the past 30 years or 20 years, 30 years, yeah. Yeah.
Now, you also wanted to include the American side to your
Right.
story. Were you surprised about the American fascination with Werner also? Because you know he appears in a lot of media as guests and stars and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we love him.
Yeah, but why do you love him? That's the big
Yeah.
question, because um, I think now you could explain why, because of course he's a fascinating person, and Americans love the story of someone from rag to riches, as it were, yeah, and or being an explorer, and Werner is an explorer. Of course, these are all explanations, but still, uh, one of these things doesn't necessarily lead to the stardom he enjoys now. So yeah, I I think, and that might also be an part of the explanation. He's still a mystery, and it's also a mystery why he's so fascinating and why Americans are fascinated by him. And people who are mysteries will always attract people to solve the mystery, like me.
That is true. Well, Thomas, let me leave with one last thought. I've taken a lot of your time already. As people have a chance to watch Werner Herzog, Radical Dreamer, what is the one most important take you hope they walk away with after watching your film?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think An important thing for me was to show that Werner is not only a filmmaker, but a really great writer. And I really, really wanted to include some of his writings in the film. And the story of his first book, his journal, when he walked from Munich to Paris to save this woman's life. Yeah, I think that would be a good take if people get interested in his books also and start to read them.
Well said, well said. Thomas, it's great to meet you. Thank you very much
It's been
for,
a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
thank you. Appreciate it. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Bye.